Well, a lot has changed since the start of the pandemic in 2020. That includes the Chicago Police Department, a department that's now younger, less white, more Latino, according to an analysis of city data. Joining us now to talk about those numbers, and the one who compiled them for us, CBS 2 data journalist Elliott Ramos. Elliott, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Brad.
First off, can you tell us some of your, this was a big dive, if you will, a lot of numbers, a lot of information. Kind of pinpoint some of the key findings, your initial findings. What popped?
Okay, well, the big one is that, yes, we're still short police officers. We're about 1,500 officers less than what we had in 2019. During that time, the white population of the police force shrunk. So did the black population, but the Hispanic population of the police force actually grew. So for the first time in a long time, the Hispanic population in the police force is reflective of that of the city's population, whereas there's still sort of a non-representation of the black officers on the force.
Interesting. What's been the most surprising aspect so far, Elliott?
So I think one of the things is I got a whole bunch of human resource data, which is a whole lot of fun. But I think one of the things is that, like, yes, there were a lot of early retirements. A lot of people in their early 50s and mid 50s kind of retired early. But one of the other more surprising things was that it's also a lot of people in their mid 30s were resigning. Usually resignations used to happen when people were about 40 years old, and that would usually be about after they had about 10 years on the force. Now they're sort of younger millennials, our officers, are resigning with about 6 years on the force. Wow,
that's some interesting numbers there, and especially so many retiring in their 50s. Prior, obviously probably going elsewhere, so on and so forth, a lot of them are fully pensioned. Prior to the Chicago mayoral election, the head of the police union said that if Brandon Johnson, the now mayor, if he was elected, we'd see a, quote, exodus like we've never seen before. Has that happened to any degree? What degree? What are you finding?
No, by and large, that hasn't happened. The biggest hit to the headcount in the police department happened in 2022 and 2021. The election, I think that was said sometime in March. And we're now, since then, we've netted 17 police officers. It's kind of one of those things where we're bucketing in as many as we're bucketing out. So the exodus kind of has been put on pause, but we're not making great gains. We're still 1,500 officers short compared to what we're budgeted for.
That is a significant number. Well, we haven't seen maybe said exodus, and we have in some ways, because we've seen a lot leaving, but we've seen a lot coming in too. So there has been, but we haven't necessarily seen it just since the election of the mayor, for sure. Has there been a difference in enrollment since the beginning of Mayor Brandon Johnson's term? It's been a short one, but it's still enough to get data out of it, right?
So we're still not making up for the departures. So right now it's kind of like at a net even, but the police department has said that they are increasing their recruitment efforts, going to historically black colleges. I snagged that. I saw a few weeks ago there was out in Millennium Park, there was a recruitment tent out there too. So there is that. But one of the issues kind of at play, and people don't think about this, when we say protect and serve, the calls for service are usually where we kind of see that's where it's felt most acutely, because we know when response times are slow, or even if they respond at all. Often when they're short staffed, this is when you're trying to scramble when there's multiple calls in the same district to try to put just even response to calls.
You kind of answered my last question there, but I'm going to ask it anyways. You've tracked this for years. You're our data maestro. So when you say we're short 1,500 cops, what does that mean? Does that have a ground level effect? Are calls not getting answered? Are response times higher? Are report times higher? Are more people complaining to 311 that an officer never showed up? Because 1,500 is significant. So what's that mean for you and I on the street, residents?
So imagine like 911 calls during the 4th of July. You're going to have people calling for fireworks or something. Something might catch on fire, all that stuff. The amount of 911 calls, absent what happened in 2020, are relatively the same, but you're still dealing with about 1,500 fewer officers. So you have fewer officers answering the same amount of calls, and that's resulting in a lot of overtime. We saw with NASCAR, we're going to definitely see it with Lollapalooza, all these special events. So it's like you're trying to just answer calls for, so I think that's the expectation, is that people at least call 911 and they get a response. But then you're also using these same police officers to staff Lollapalooza, Cubs games, you name it, parades, all that stuff that's going on. And it's what makes Chicago summers great. But then you still need the manpower to actually like police it.
Yeah, we've got a lot of tired officers out there trying to make up for probably that 1,500 shortage. Do you have any anecdote, like how much we're paying in overtime? I mean,
actually,
I know
gonna come out with
Lollapalooza
figures in a short order, but not at the moment.
Okay, that is the honest answer from a data guy, because if the data's not there, he's not. See, I on the stream can just throw things out there, and sometimes they're wrong, but Elliott won't. Elliott, data journalist Elliott Ramos for the CBS 2 Investigators, a friend of the stream and a real friend of mine. Thank you, Elliott.
Thanks so much, Brad.
Okay, we'll see you in a bit.